Hello, bonjour, namaste, ni hao, and ohio, everybody. What is going on? It is Galeriot here. Welcome back to the YouTube channel once again for another Danmachi video. And today we're here to talk about Danmachi Season 4, Episode 16, or Season 4, Part 2, Episode 5. I'm so excited to be talking about this episode because we finally can see my boy Welf shining like a bright star, and I cannot wait to talk about his scenes and his sequences. Of course, there are other things to talk about, especially with Bella and Ryu, and some things that they actually kind of missed out from the light novel that I wish they added in this episode. And I know somebody actually left a comment in the last episode expecting this to happen, and we can talk about it in this video, of course. So if you guys go on to enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more Danmachi content. We are so close to 1,000 subscribers. I think it's only like 60 subs away. Would be amazing if you guys just hit that subscribe button and get us over the line. It would be truly appreciated. And of course, leave a comment down below as well, letting me know how you guys are finding the episodes. Do you guys like what they're showing in the episode? Do you guys not like what they're showing in the episodes? What do you guys think they're missing and stuff like that? I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say down below about this episode in particular. Now, let's get into the episode, shall we? Let's talk about what's been cooking in the episode. And first and foremost, we obviously have to talk about the Estrella Familia sequence that keeps popping up in every episode's beginning. And I think it's still done extremely well. It's not lasting too long, the flashback sequence, but it's not too short either. I feel like a lot of people tend to, get tired of flashback sequences, especially if they're extremely lengthy. Or if they're extremely short, it feels like there's not been much being shown, right? I think they're doing a great job in teasing everybody with the Estrella Familia slowly but surely. And of course, we're gonna lead into the big situation and big event that happened, of course, in the past, along with simultaneously them possibly facing the Juggernaut or something along those lines. So it's going to be very interesting, to say the least, right? As to what happens in the next couple of episodes, and if they pick up the pace or if they keep at this pace, because we're actually close to the end of the season at the same time. Next week's episode will be the midway point, right? So it's going to be very interesting to see where and how they handle the flashback sequences from here on out, for sure. And I will say this as well, by the way. Right now in Danmachi Memoria Freese, we have the Estrella record event live. So if you haven't read the Estrella record event, you can go and play the game and find out there, of course. Alternatively, you can go and watch it on YouTube as well. There are various, YouTubers who have the Estrella record story uploaded. So you can watch the entirety of the Estrella record story on YouTube itself. So I would highly recommend doing that, because you get a better understanding of all of these characters. You'll get a better connection with some of these characters. That's one of the things I realized when I was reading volumes 12 to 14, in that because I had read Estrella record and because I had a connection to these characters, I felt more when the events happened and when the flashback sequences happened and stuff like that in the light novel. So that's something I would highly recommend doing as well, if you get the opportunity to, is go through the Estrella record story, because it actually helps you out in having a connection with these characters. So that's something I wanted to actually talk about as well in this video, was the connection between Estrella record and the Estrella Familia and the events of volumes 12 to 14. So something you guys can definitely do, of course. Now, one thing to also point out is that Estrella record happens 2 years before the Estrella Familia events and the flashback sequences and everything. So that's also something to bear in mind. Now, let's talk about the events that actually happened in the episode, the present day, right? And of course, we see Belle and Ryu finally kind of making a plan and making movements effectively towards the lower floors, basically, to try and get to floor 39, the safety point, right? And it's very interesting to see how they're going about it. And of course, we see them ransacking the corpses and defiling the corpses, as Belle suggested, right? And it goes to show how hard it is, because, obviously Belle has never had to experience this sort of situation where he's encountered a dead adventurer in the lower floors, and also seen the dangers of the lower floors. He's getting the all-in-one experience right now. Of course, he's had close shaves in the past, the Goliath, the Minotaur, stuff like that, right? But this is the first time he's had to deal with such threats, basically, where he's basically on the brink of death no matter what anybody says. This is the closest he's ever been, right? And of course, even to the point where he has to defile corpses, anything to do to survive, you know what I'm saying? So I think they showed that extremely well. Of course, I feel like the light novel obviously described it well, but I feel like seeing it visually hits different because you can see their expressions. You can tell that, this isn't something they want to be doing. They don't want to, defile a body that's been, that's gone through so much already, and it's a dead person. You don't really defile them. You have to give respects to the dead, right? And to see that happening, and to see Belle having to adjust to that. And not only just Belle, Ryu, steeled herself and was like, it's not something I want to do, but we gotta do what we gotta do to survive. And even Belle has that inner monologue as well of like, somebody with high standards, with such a high set of morals, right? When it comes to Ryu, the fact that she's doing it goes to show what situation we're in, right? And I think that was extremely well handled. Once again, I think expressions matter a lot when it comes to anime, especially when you can't really get everything you want through a monologue because of either time or whatever it may be, right? Run length of the episode. So showing it in expressions and showing it in like body language is very important, and I think they did a good job in that regards. They definitely did a good job in that regards for sure, right? And we of course see Ryu wearing the coat and everything, and it's great. Of course, that whole scene and sequence, of course it was split up into two scenes technically, because of course we had some scenes from the party side of things, which we'll address in this next half of the video basically. But the first half, where they of course focus in on Belle and Ryu, I think was done well, extremely well, and we're gonna start seeing more of them from the next episode onwards. So far we've only seen maybe like 5 minutes of them at most in terms of the run length, right? Out of the 23 minutes of the episode's airtime, basically we see them for 5 minutes. Basically we're gonna start seeing more and more of them in the coming episodes, if my memory serves me correct, of course. So that's gonna be very exciting, and it's gonna be very interesting to see how they handle it from here on out for sure. And of course, now let's talk about the party, right? Let's talk about Welf, of course, our main star of the show. And of course, this episode, I should say, not the show, more so the episode, I should say. And of course, he was the title of the episode, Welf Crozo, right? It's gonna be it was gonna be very interesting to see what they did with Welf, in all honesty, because of course there were some things that they haven't shown in terms of the anime at all. Of course, if you read the light novels, you read volume 8 for example, they go into much more detail about Welf and his connection with Hephaestus, the blacksmithing and stuff like that, right? Whereas in the anime they've never been able to show it because volume 8 was never fully adapted. We only got 2 episodes of volume 8 basically, and that's it. We never got the side stories, we never got the side characters' stories basically from volume 8, right? And furthermore, there are some other scenes that were entirely skipped on when it came to volumes 9 to 11 and 12 and 13 as well, when it came to Welf. So there was obviously going to be that question of, are they going to finally show some of those scenes in this episode? And I think that's one of my biggest issues, and I'll start with one of my biggest issues in this episode was Welf's connection with Hephaestus. Welf's connection with his past was never really shown in full, unfortunately. And the fact that this was their perfect time to show it and they didn't kind of leaves a sour taste in my mouth just a little bit. While they handled Welf well, in generally speaking, with what he achieved in the episode, with his moments and stuff like that, they needed to go back to his past a little bit, address volume 8 stories that they never showed, his crush on Hephaestus and stuff like that in proper detail, right? They missed out on that opportunity, in all honesty. I think they could have done a much better job. Yes, they referenced it a little bit, of course, with him wanting to surpass, Hephaestus, him wanting to, prove himself to Belle and stuff like that, and prove himself worthy of being a forger, for an artisan. They missed out on that opportunity of getting that connection really solid by going into his past a little bit, showing a little bit of history, right? Again, I don't know if it's because of the run length, once again, the airtime being an issue, right? Only 23-minute long episodes. If it was longer, maybe they could have done it, but it's something that I feel like they missed out quite a lot, it felt like, in this episode, frankly speaking. But I think that was only my major negative point about this episode, because the rest of this episode, well, actually, no, I have a second, well, I think it's a bit of a minor, major kind of, issue that I have with this episode. And that is, the first half of this episode felt like a bit slideshowy, I'm not gonna lie. The visuals were not on point for the first half of the episode with the party, where they were stills more so than anything else, right? We never got to see proper movements until the second half of the episode, right? So I think that's one of my other major slash minor issues, is where the visuals could have been a little bit better throughout the episode, but I'm gonna let them off on that because so far, I'll be very honest and say they've not really made me complain about the animations. The fact that today is the first day I've had like somewhat of an issue with the episode says a lot, in all honesty, in terms of how much they've improved since, maybe you could argue, since season 3, you could say, so definitely one of the points and issues I had as well was the visuals could have been a little bit better for the first half, but once that second half started rolling, oh boy, was it a good one, honestly. Welf coming out of that smoke and launching the fire attack and everything was excellent, in all honesty. It was so well handled. Cassandra helping Welf out and everything, the sword and all of that, unbelievably well handled. I loved it. It gave him his moment and it made him shine like a bright star. It was phenomenal. I'm so excited to see where they go from here with Welf, of course, not only just in terms of the anime but also the light novels as well. I really like Welf as a character, and of course I would like to see him shine more often than not, for sure. So definitely very very happy for Welf being able to shine properly in one of these seasons, in all honesty. So it's brilliant, fantastic job from them. And overall, generally, the whole party sequence, Boars, Uka, Aisha, everybody did their own thing. They did a good job, and it was well done. It was overall well done. One of the things, as a light novel reader, I know a lot of people might be disappointed on the Reddit. We'll come on to that in just a moment. But I know people loved this moment where Daphne actually blushed when Welf had his moment. So I know a lot of people will be probably a little bit disappointed that they didn't show the Daphne blush, unfortunately. I'm not too fussed about it. It's something that would have been cool. It would have shown that Daphne is getting more and more respect and more appreciation, I suppose, for the Hestia Familia. And obviously I feel like Daphne, this is just me more so than anything else, it's not something that actually happens in the light novels or in the anime, but of course, Daphne and Cassandra, well, Daphne more so, rejected the Hestia Familia because of the Hestia knife debt, which obviously made actually came back in this episode when Hestia went to go talk to Hephaestus about the whole dungeon situation and the fact that Tsubaki's gone down into the dungeon to help them out, right? And of course, the Hestia knife repayment came back up as well, which is hilarious, to be quite honest. So yeah, it's very very cool and very very interesting, the events that happen in this episode. Like I said, I love the fact that Welf had his brilliant moment, and like I said, this one felt like a shorter episode, even though it was the normal length. There was no difference in the timing, so it feels like not a lot happened, but the moments that happened were brilliant. And one thing I also want to talk about before we go into the Reddit side of things: sound effects. I talked about the visuals lacking a little bit. The sound effects made up more than enough for it, I feel like, at the same time. That's why I said it's a major minor issue, where it's like it's not too big of an issue because the sound effects kind of backed it up a little bit. The striking of the hammer on the forge, brilliant, unbelievably brilliantly done, in all honesty. When the sequences were happening and you could hear the hammer striking the iron, it was well done. Or adamantite, I should say, the material. It was brilliant because you could hear that happening, and it keeps you excited, it keeps you gassed up. Whereas if they had just played the normal music in the background, right, it wouldn't have had that much of an impact, right? But making sure that the hammer striking the material continuously was ringing in the background made that effect even better. And then of course the change in sound when Welf had that rejuvenation, that strike of I would say that moment when he had that moment of euphoria, effectively. Or I guess euphoria is a moment of euphoria. Is that the right way to say it? Let's go with moment of euphoria. When he had that moment of courage, moment of realization, I guess is the better way to put it. The sound of the iron striking the material changing was well done. Again, JC staff have a knack for handling and nailing the sound effects in all of their series, and Danmachi is no different. They've taken it a bit of a notch up as well, I feel like, in this season. Super well done. And of course, the music playing in the background throughout the second half of the episode was brilliant. Overall, well done episode. I think I would give it probably like a 6 or 7 out of 10. I think there are some things they could have probably done a little bit better, for sure. I think the only disappointment I have, realistically speaking, the proper issue that I have with this episode was obviously the lack of Welf's history coming into play, because I feel like that's such an important part of him, and the fact that they've never fully addressed it in the anime kind of hurts him a little bit as a character, unfortunately. But that's my only really big gripe I have with this episode. Of course, there are some nitpicks you can obviously point out in this episode, like the visuals and stuff, right? But I think that's the main ones. All right, let's have a look at the spoilers, or I should say, not spoilers, the comment section of the Reddit to see what people thought of the episode. I don't know why it said spoilers. I guess I'm still thinking about that volume 18 spoilers video I made a while back. Let me refresh the page and then we'll come back in just a moment actually to see what everybody's saying. Okay. While reading the novels, I was hyped up with Belle's scenes in anime adaptation. The parties, especially Welf scenes, do hype me up. Guess I'll have to wait for Belle's fight with Juggernaut to be hype again. By the way, Welf is Ichigo with red hair that attack, that pose, my boy. I mean, I can see the resemblance, the hairstyle and everything. It's true. It's very, very true. But I think in terms of the novels and of course the party sequences and stuff, I can agree with that. I think they've done a great job in hyping the party sequences a little bit more, you could say, right? And maybe they've introduced an element of plot armor for that, of course, right? I know a lot of people have been talking about it, for example, the Haruhime Goliath robe sequence and stuff like that, right? I do feel it's necessary because of the way they're animating these episodes, right? It's not like they're doing the chronological order of how the order in which the light novel did it, because that's technically not the chronological order. Everything happened simultaneously, right? All roads led together to one point specifically, right? So obviously in this situation, because they're doing it sort of chronologically and at the same time, right, showing both sides of the coin at the same time, it was very important to make sure that the party had their hype moments and they were definitively hype as well, right? So I think that was very important, and the way they're handling it so far is well done, to be quite honest. Absolutely well done. The episode flew by. It felt like I'd been watching 10 minutes, not 23. Welf's Hour to Shine did not disappoint, and I like how his new gen magic sword looks too. I absolutely agree. I like the way they designed the magic sword for sure. A shame they didn't refer to Hephaestus' promise to him though. Maybe it'll come at some point. Yep. I do think there's a lot of the element to adapt, and of course, like he says, it takes 20 seconds for a little bit flashback sequence and him to say something. And then, of course, Alf Zephyr here also mentions about Volume 8. It's something I mentioned earlier on in this video. There's actually so much of Welf's backstory that they should have covered in this episode and could have probably covered it in this episode. Maybe, who knows? Maybe they could have done a better job instead of using those 3 Welfs surrounding him, which did extremely well in this episode. But I don't know, I think I would have personally preferred the more Hephaestus promise stuff, and of course the actual sequence of volume 8 being in this episode, maybe instead of that. Potentially, that's just my take. I think I don't know, let me know what you guys would have preferred. Would you guys prefer that volume 8 stuff more so than the inner monologue stuff that he had? Let me know in the comments. I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say down below. Okay, I see what they're doing here. Okay, I'm not gonna reveal this because this is gonna reveal a spoiler for potentially next episode. I'm glad they gave a lot of attention to Welf forming his new magic sword, as it's one of the coolest parts of the arc. Absolutely. I think it's one of the, once again, I think the best part about this novel, in all honesty, volume 14, is that everybody got a time to shine. In the past, it felt like always that Belle was the big shining light at the end of the day. All roads led back to Belle, effectively. This time around, I feel like they were doing a better job in showcasing everybody. Some characters are getting a little bit ignored, you could say, Cassandra and stuff like that, but I feel like for the most part, everybody else has gotten their time to shine, for sure. Alright, man, these episodes feel like they just keep getting shorter and shorter. They're still the exact length. I'm on the edge of my seat more and more. It absolutely blows my mind that we're literally getting 11 episodes for one LN. The level of attention to detail is insane. There are still some things that get cut, but there are things that they add and build on and that I really enjoy. So it's all in all still an incredibly faithful adaptation. Well, I wouldn't say it's a faithful adaptation, but I think it's an alternate adaptation more so than anything else, in the sense of where they're making it fit for anime purposes. Because I always feel like Yes, it's always next to impossible to adapt a light novel into anime format. You've got the inner monologues, you've got the descriptions and the moments, and it ends up becoming a really hard task to word for word adapt a light novel into anime format. And even if you try and do that, you end up, hurting potentially some other parts of the light novel, or the anime, because you've missed out on something, or you didn't give certain moments justice enough because they were awkwardly written potentially, right? I think, on the other hand, with the way Danmachi is doing it, where yes, it's a faithful adaptation where they're nailing the important points, but they're also making sure to add in points, like you said, so making it a slightly alternate, deviated adaptation. Very slightly, it's still running parallelly to the same point, but it's slightly just adjusting things here and there. So it's like, for example, imagine this was the light novel. The anime is going like this, cutting back in, cutting back out, cutting back out, going back in, stuff like that. I think it's doing well in that regards for sure. I guess they will really take up one more episode to finish up Hestia Familia. It's fine, honestly. I don't see it taking up the whole episode since we got more floor 37. Yep. Like I said, I think next week onwards, we'll start getting more Bella and Ryu stuff, and we should be going back on track basically with the level 37, floor 37 stuff for sure. With that, I think it's absolutely clear it is not ending on volume 14. Interesting. Okay. I think that's true. I think we're not going to get volume 14 this season. 15 this season, I think. I do think we're not going to be getting anything volume 15. There is a possibility we might not get volume 15 at all. Maybe the start of next season, who knows? But yeah, it does seem like there is going to be no volume 15 stuff in this season so far. The way they're going about it, it does seem like that. I don't think they have enough time for it. We'll see though. We'll see. Me and the 4 Welf X Daphne shippers. God damn it! I knew that somebody was here, man. I knew that Zekrom. God damn it, man. All right, let's see what's happening here. Okay, JC really tried. I give them that. To rearrange and direct the story segments in a fluid order, enough to give this audience sufficient context of what's going on, while still maintaining the grim tone and dread of the situation. I would say that this episode actually does a solid job. Whatever internal turmoil and conflict they can't convey through the conversation, the monologue, the visual, they made up with the suitable OST and sound direction. Seeing Alize and the girls right before the OP always hits deep. Scavenging items from the dead adventurers managed to bring out a complicated and mixed feeling, especially when they dropped hints of their regret and demise during the last moment. It adds more to the brutal reality of the dungeon. Yeah, like I said, that moment was fantastic. I feel like the first half of this, the way Dusker suggested, really tried, makes it seem like JC failed inevitably. But I feel like JC is doing a good job so far, like he says at the end of that paragraph. Just the start made me seem like this was going to be a negative comment, but so far it's good. As for Welf's glorious moment, it's barely enough. His internal struggles and near-death enlightenment may look cliche, but it works even if it doesn't look badass as the compared to the book. Anime only fans may not get the actual context from Spirit's blessing in his blood, though. Without that, exactly what I said. I feel like the volume 8 stuff and whatnot could have helped this episode so much in terms of Welf as a character, because right now it doesn't seem like he just managed to get it out of nowhere and boom, magic sword kind of thing. But no, it's in his blood. There's a lot of story behind it, and it's one of those things I wish they adapted. Like I said many a times, I feel like volume 8 could have easily been like its own OVA or something like that, but they never ended up doing it, which is really annoying. But yeah, either way, overall it's a good episode for my standard. The story and sound direction actually definitely helped, where the visual act and no Daphne blushing. Why? Well, one of the 4 Daphne shippers are right here under you, Zekrom. Oh man, whoa, what an episode. I knew that it was hard on Bell to take the gear from dead bodies, but you gotta do what you gotta do in those situations. No use in letting that stuff go to waste. To survive on those floors, you'll have to do with any type of reservation. Welf kind of okay, you guys can't see this, but he basically says, well, speedran crafting a sword, but I'll allow that. I mean, yeah, to be fair, it's in his blood. He can go all the way for it. He can go all the way for it. But yeah, overall, it seems like everybody's been pretty positive about this episode. I also personally liked it. Like I said, I just think that there are some things that could have been better, particularly just to help the character development more so than anything else. But yeah. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode down below in the comments. I'm curious to see if you guys liked it, disliked it, what do you guys think should have been changed. Potentially, I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say down below. But of course, before we end the video, remember to like, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in tomorrow's videos. Take it easy, everybody. Bye-bye.